Yes, good morning, everybody. I welcome you to my class. And today I like to discuss William Wordsworth's Intimations of Immortality from Recollections of Early Childhood. Have you heard the name of this poem? Have you heard the name of this poem? Ode on Intimations of Immortality from Recollections of Early Childhood. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is one of the most seminal poems of William Wordsworth. And this poem marks some important aspects of William Wordsworth's poetic career. For example, Wordsworth has called it an ode, and you will find several aspects and characteristics of irregular ode. And Wordsworth, with distinct capacity, has brought about different kinds of rhyme schemes here, or different prosodic techniques in this poem. For example, he has brought about amalgamation among anavistic meter, trochaic meter, and couplet also. And this poem is also remarkable because of its philosophic basis. Wordsworth, while writing this poem, was mostly influenced by Platonic philosophy of the immortality of human soul. And not only that, Wordsworth was also influenced by some contemporary incidents at that time. For example, his friendship with S.T. Coleridge and his visit to Coleridge's house frequently. And there he met Coleridge's little son, Bartley Coleridge. And his observation of the sports and games of the child from philosophic perspective contributed immensely to the development of the theme and subject matter of this poem. And you know that the title, Intimations of Immortality from Recollections of Early Childhood. So whose immortality is discussed here? Or whose immortality is philosophically treated in this poem? You may question. Actually, the immortality of soul is reflected here and handled here, this very particular subject matter, philosophically. And this poem is also nostalgic because the title says Recollections of Early Childhood. Recollections means the memories of the past that you inculcate or ruminate today. If you ruminate your past memories today, that is called recollections. That is remembering of your past memories. So thus we find a lot of things brought together in this poem. And for that reason, this poem has become a complicated creation of William Wordsworth. And another thing that we have to know that this poem was started by William Wordsworth in 1802. And at first, William Wordsworth completed only the first 4 stanzas. Look at these stanzas. This is the first stanza. And then the second stanza, third stanza, and fourth stanza. So up to this fourth stanza, Wordsworth completed in 1802. And for certain reasons, he stopped writing this poem. That is, he did not finish this poem in 1802. After 2 to 4 years, that is in 1806, Wordsworth started rewriting this poem. And then he started from the 5th stanza of this poem, and he finished it. And you know that there are 11 stanzas in this poem. Okay. So thus we find that William Wordsworth took time to complete this poem. And the lapse of time, that is the lapse of 4 years, brought about remarkable changes in his attitude, in his observation, in his study of his surroundings, of human soul, of the philosophic attitude of Plato. You know, Plato, a Greek philosopher, believes in the immortality of human soul. Plato believes that human soul lives in heaven, and from heaven it comes to this earth that is swimming across the sea of immortality. The soul comes to this earth and takes resort to human body, that is ephemeral body of human being. And after a certain period, this human soul again goes back to heaven. So Plato believes that this world is an unreal entity. This world is an unreal place. So what is then our real place? According to Plato, heaven is the real place. Heaven is the eternal abode or shelter of human soul. So every soul, human soul, will go back to heaven. This is Plato's belief. And Wordsworth has added something new and innovated Plato's conception of immortality of human soul. Wordsworth has observed the circle of human life. That is, a child is born, and while the child is born, it discovers celestial glory in every aspect of human nature. That is the nature that you look around you. You will find the celestial glory while you are a child. So why? Because Wordsworth says that while human soul lives in heaven, because of the contact or because of its close contact with God, it inherits the celestial or heavenly glory. And while the soul comes to this earth, it brings with it that very celestial glory. And by virtue of this celestial glory, a child can see heavenly light in every object of nature. But this celestial glory is not everlasting. As soon as the child grows into a boy, boy into a man, man into an old man, gradually the celestial glory ebbs away or ebbs out. That is, dries up. The celestial glory goes away or leaves that very man. And this is a great loss. So Wordsworth calls it a loss of celestial glory. So while the child looks around, it finds celestial glory. It's a very crucial heavenly gift. But this gift does not last with human being. As soon as the child grows up, the celestial glory dries up. So this is the loss of celestial glory. But Wordsworth does not lament over this loss. And here lies the difference between Wordsworth and many English poets who deal with childhood. Suppose Henry Vaughan, a metaphysical poet, laments on the loss of celestial glory in his poems, and he does not find any gain with the growth of human child. So he is a poet of loss, that is, loss of celestial glory. He laments on the loss of celestial glory or heavenly light. But Wordsworth is a poet of loss and gain. So loss of celestial glory that he affirms in this poem. And at the same time, he says that this loss has got a compensation. And this loss can be made up. So how? As soon as the child grows into a boy, boy into a man, man into an old man, this very gradual course of life is involved in the philosophic development of human mind. That is, while you are a child, you do not have a philosophic mind. So what's a philosophic mind? A philosophic mind is a mind which is curious about the creation of human nature, about the relationship between nature and God, our creator, or about different mysteries of nature. So a philosophic mind is a curious mind. And a child does not have it. A child is incapable of discovering the affinity between man and God in its childhood. A child cannot discover this affinity between man and God, between nature and God. But while a child grows into a man, gradually, a man can look around with a philosophic mind, and he can have a philosophic observation. He can discover the affinity between man and nature, between God and nature. He can also discover that this nature is not a blank page. It is a page with a lot of things written on it. And a philosophic person can read the mysteries of nature on this page. So childhood has celestial glory, undoubtedly, but maturity is also gifted with a philosophic mind, a philosophic, a speculative, a meditative mood that will help you understand the mystery of nature. So in this way, Wordsworth has brought about an equilibrium, that is balance between loss and gain. He does not lament over the loss because he thinks that human beings or human soul is also gifted with a philosophic mind. And he has given some examples of a philosophic mind. That is, how will you understand that you have developed a philosophic mind? Wordsworth, towards the end of this poem, has said that even the cloud that gathers in the sky may make you thoughtful. That is, you will feel tempted to think about the existence of God and the mystery of creation at the sight of the cloud gathered in the sky. Or even the meanest flowers that bloom unseen, unknown, can give you thoughts that you cannot express in simple words. That is, if you have a philosophic mind, nothing around you is meaningless. You can discover the profoundest meanings you can discover the subtle meanings of nature. And that is the advantage of maturity. And Wordsworth, for this reason, finds significance both in a child and in a matured person. A child is to him a philosopher. A child is to him a prophet. So why? In what sense is a child a prophet to him? He has called a child a mighty prophet, seer blessed. Wordsworth says, mighty prophet, seer blessed, on whom those truths do rest, which we are toiling all our lives to find, in darkness lost, the darkness of the grave. Actually, I am quoting these lines from 8th stanza of this poem. So Wordsworth has called a child a mighty prophet. So why? A prophet is a messenger from God. That is, he carries the messages from God to the people. So similarly, if you look at a child, you will find that he is wrapped in celestial glory. He carries the heavenly light. So in this way, you can discover a direct connectivity between a child and God. So this very particular aspect makes the child a prophet. As a prophet carries messages from God and conveys it to his followers, similarly, a child, not conspicuously, but indirectly, gives us a gesture that he is connected with heaven, which is our eternal abode. So in this way, a child is a mighty prophet. A child is also called an eye, E-Y-E, eye. Eye means a child can see the eternal abode or eternal shelter of human souls that we, the maturer people, cannot see. So we are blind in this sense. This is not physical blindness. This is the spiritual blindness. And the child is not blind because the child is well aware of its heavenly heritage, of the celestial glory. So in this way, the child is called an eye, and human beings, we the maturer people, are called blind. And for this reason, Wordsworth says, mighty prophet, seer blessed, on whom those truths do rest. That is, the truths of heaven are resting on the child, which we are toiling all our lives to find. We means we, the maturer people, are toiling, that is laboring, working hard to discover, all our life to find. And these truths we have lost in the darkness of grave. The grave is synonymous with this material world, which has alienated or isolated us from heaven, as a grave alienates a man or a woman from the world, from the unrest of the world. Similarly, we, the maturer people, we are alienated from heavenly glory. So this material world is synonymous with a grave. Okay, in this way, Wordsworth in this poem has reflected on the loss and gain, that is loss of celestial light and the gain of a philosophic mind. Okay. Now, I like to start reciting this poem, and I believe you can see the screen. So just look at the epigraph of this poem. This epigraph has been taken from Wordsworth's another poem, My Heart Lifts Up. And let us read this epigraph. So what is an epigraph? Epigraph is a quotation which is set at the inception of a writing, and it refers to the genesis of the writing. Okay, it refers to the content of the writing. While you will recite an epigraph, you will have the capacity to guess what this poem is written about. So this is epigraph. And if you go in contact with T.S. Eliot, Eliot has also used epigraph very powerfully and significantly or meaningfully. You will find epigraph in T.S. Eliot's poems. You will also find epigraph in Edmund Spenser. If you read Fairy Queen by Edmund Spenser, you will find epigraphs there. So epigraph is a technique that is used or adopted by some powerful poets or writers to refer to the genesis of the writing or refer to the content of the writing. And the readers become prepared while reading the epigraph. The readers become prepared about the seriousness of the subject matter of the text. So anyway, the epigraph says, the child is father of the man. So look at the first line. The child is father of the man. In Bangla, ঘুমিয়ে আছে শিশুর পিতা সব শিশুরই অন্তরে. The English line, the child is father of the man. And I could wish my days to be bound each to each by natural piety. That is the child who is child today will be a maturer man tomorrow. So a child is an entity that may be observed philosophically. This is said, or this is suggested by William Wordsworth. So now let's start this poem, the first stanza. There was a time when meadow grew and stream, the earth and every common sight, to me did seem apparelled in celestial light, the glory and the freshness of a dream. So just think of this stanza. There was a time. So Wordsworth reflects on childhood. There was a time. That is, the time is not now. The time is not now with him. The time has gone off. There was a time. Actually, he refers to his childhood. There was a time when meadow. There was a time when meadow means field, vast grass field, grew and stream, the earth and every common sight. The group means the garden, the forest, okay, and a stream. A stream means the brook, the flow of water. The earth and every common sight to me did seem. That is, the poet speaks. The speaker is first person singular number. This is called subjectivity, and you know that this is a characteristics of romanticism. In my last class, I told you something about romanticism. And this is one of the characteristics, major characteristics of romanticism, that is subjectivity. Okay. So there was a time when meadow, brook, and stream, the earth and every common sight, to me did seem apparelled in celestial light, the glory and the freshness of a dream. So the childhood was just like a dream to him. He enjoyed the freshness. He enjoyed the glory of heaven in his childhood. So childhood was a very happy period for him. And Wordsworth highly glorifies his childhood. And while he said there was a time, it also reflects his nostalgia. That is, there was a time and now the time is not with him. That very glorious time is over. Okay. It is not now as it hath been of yore. Now look at this stanza. It is not now as it hath been yore. It is not now. That is, Wordsworth shifts the time from childhood to maturity. So we find a paradigm shift of time. Paradigm means the pattern of ideas, the pattern of thoughts, the pattern of your ideas, ideation, conceptions, etc., etc. Okay, paradigm. Suppose history is a paradigm, because in history we find ideas, we find thoughts, we find suggestions, we find advices. So all these things constitute a paradigm. And paradigm shifts. Shifting means moving from one state to another state, that is, from one condition to another condition. So we find paradigm shift in fashion also. That is, if you look back to 60s and 70s, 1960s and 1970s, you will find the dress code of our heroes, especially celluloid heroes. You will find that their dress code was totally different from that we find today all around us. So there is a paradigm shift of dress code. Okay. So shifting is the way of the world. Shifting is always going on. For that reason, I have used this term paradigm shift. Okay. Anyway, the poet refers to a paradigm shift of time. That is, in childhood, he could enjoy the celestial light, apparelled in celestial light. Apparelled means covered, dressed, wrapped. In celestial means heavenly, heavenly light. The glory and the freshness of a dream. The glory and the freshness of a dream. It is not now as it hath been yore. It is not now. Now means this maturity. As it hath been, hath, H-A-T-H, hath. Actually, this word is an archaic word. Now, this word is not used in poetry. So we call it obsolete. Obsolete means archaic. Archaic words, or these obsolete words, were very popular in medieval English. And in this way, we find the reflection of medievalism in this poem. So medievalism, or inclination to medievalism, is one of the characteristics of the Romantic poets. The Romantic poets show sufficient interest in medieval poetic technique and medieval elements also. Suppose Samuel Taylor Coleridge has written about a polar spirit in his Rime of the Ancient Mariner. This polar spirit is borrowed from medieval literature. In medieval literature, that is from 1066, the great year of Norman conquest, to 1450, this very span of time may be branded or marked as a medieval period, okay, in English literature. And during this time, the literary works that were produced are remarkable for these kinds of words. You will find these peculiar words, peculiar spellings in medieval literature, English literature. And Romantic poets like William Wordsworth, Shelley, and many other Romantic poets showed sufficient interest in medieval spellings or medieval elements of literature. Okay. So Wordsworth has used here hath. that is has been of yore. Yore means past, before. Y-O-R-E. Yore means past or before. That is, celestial light was existing before. Now it does not exist. So in this way, Wordsworth shows the transition from childhood to maturity. So we find a transition here in the second stanza. Turn whatsoever I may by night and day, the things which I have seen, I now can see no more. That is, I cannot see that I saw in my childhood. So what did he see in his childhood? Celestial glory. And this is the cause of Wordsworth's sadness. Wordsworth is sad because he has lost the celestial light that he inherited from heaven and that he could experience in his childhood. And now in his maturity, he cannot see this celestial light. I think from these two stanzas, you will have an idea about the subject matter of this poem. This poem is about loss of celestial glory. And as it will advance while reading, you will find the poet is reflecting on the gain of the maturity. So what is the gain of maturity? A philosophic mind. Thus, Wordsworth has told us about loss and gain. And this loss has been compensated with the gain of a philosophic mind in maturity. All right. So Wordsworth in the second stanza says that it is not now. I'm again reading it for your sake. It is not now as it hath been of yore. That is, celestial light is not now existing as it was in the past. Turn wheresoever I may. That is, wherever I look, wherever I turn, wherever I see. By night and day, that is all the time. The things which I have seen, I now can see no more. The things which I have seen. So what things I saw in my childhood? Celestial light in every object of nature. Heavenly innocence in every object of nature. Or heavenly brilliance in every aspect of nature. These were the things that I saw in my childhood. And now I cannot see those things anymore. Okay? The rainbow comes and goes, and lovely is the rose. That is, the rainbow is still beautiful. It comes, goes, and the rose is still lovely. The moon doth with delight look round her when the heaven are bare. Waters on a starry night are beautiful and fair. The sunshine is a glorious part, but yet I know wherever I go that there hath passed away a glory from the earth. So the lamentation becomes very acute now. That is, the rainbows are still beautiful. The roses are still lovely. The streams are still flowing. The birds are still chirping. The sun still shines brilliantly. But wherever I go, I do not find that very celestial light that I saw in my childhood. Understand? So I think you have got the ideas about this poem. This poem is about loss and gain, loss of celestial glory and the gain of philosophic mind. Now I like to hear from you. Do you have any questions up to this, up to the third stanza? If you have any question, please put your questions. Miss Emi. Do you have any question? Shravani, do you have any question?
No, sir.
I think you should have questions. If you don't have questions, you don't have a philosophic mind. Okay. And Wordsworth has defined philosophic mind in respect of curiosity, in respect of the capacity to discover the truths in nature. All right. Now, any more question? Naushin, do you have any question? Nusrat, Meem, do you have any
No, sir.
question? No question. All right.
Sir,
Yes.
can you please summarize the poem?
Yes, I have already
Shortly.
summarized the poem. Why are you so much fascinated with summary without reciting the whole poem? This poem is about loss and gain. This is about the loss of celestial light that a child inherits from God, from heaven. And this poem is also about gain because a maturer person develops a philosophic attitude towards nature. And Wordsworth has reflected on the activities of the children. And at the same time, side by side, he has reflected on the capability of a maturer man. And he has also drawn some examples from nature. And in this way, this poem is about loss and gain. And this poem is based on Platonic philosophy of the immortality of human soul. Actually, this is the long and short in brief of this poem. This is the summary of this poem. Now you have to recite it very thoroughly and carefully and try to understand every line of this poem. Any more question?